G'day everyone, Jason Nunn, Fisherman's Warehouse, Tuckerwell Marks Point, with a wild Friday fishing report. Wow, 45 plus knot winds have only just hammered down through along the coast, and hail as big as 50-cent pieces. Certainly a lot of damage locally, but we're going to get the other side of that. So Friday afternoon, probably a little bit of a case of getting out there to sort it out. We've got about 5 or 6 days of west to northwest winds running right the way through to the end of the week. This wind that we've got out here now is going to start to abate overnight, and by the time we get in to probably the latter part of tomorrow and probably even lunch, you're going to see these westerlies start to kick in a little bit, and we're looking for a dry period for the next 4 or 5 days. How has it been happening offshore? Well, been quite a few snapper on the inshore reefs, being some reports to the north, of course, up towards Port Stephens, some very nice snapper there, but right the way through, off Newcastle, up off Merriweather, up towards Susan Gilmore, back in close in particular. Really nice snapper at the moment on soft plastics and of course baits. But we're seeing these fish right along the inshore. Not big fish, I must say, guys. Fish up to around about, kilo and a half to 3 kilo. Better ones certainly to the north up towards Broughton. But it's good to see these fish now coming through. That water temp dropping down to around about 20.5 degrees. We're losing temperature, and as a result of that, we're starting to see these better snapper come through. To my surprise, however, there is an abundance of big bonitos still out there. I know the slender Cluro out 2 days ago, got some cracking bonitos, so there's some big bonitos still. And it is quite late, because you've got to think about it, next week is of course the 1st of June. So just really late in the season. They're late turning up and late to leave, but plenty of bonito and lots of trag coastally. Bigger trag definitely in that deeper water, in and around about that, 60, 70 metres, and even out to that farm depth of around about 96 metres. Bigger trag there, but these inshore reefs still holding big numbers of trag, a lot of tailor coastally. Now, some of the things that are actually happening on our rock system at the moment is we're seeing a lot of schooling fish, seeing big schools of ludric along the coast, but a lot of very, very good brim. Once this westerly starts to kick in and run into next week, that swell's going to back off quite quickly. The rock fishing is going to come to its own. But one of the other things is there's quite a few snapper getting caught off the rocks. And I spoke to a good friend of ours, Justin Worley, who's come back into town to play for, obviously, Central Newcastle. He had a bit of a chance to fish down at the Dudley Redhead area the other day and got half a dozen beautiful reds. So it's good to see those types of fish on the rocks. And rock fishing this time of year really does go to the next dimension. So it's a really good time to get down there, and no doubt there will be a few drummer on those coastal rock platforms. The beaches, a lot of salmon now starting to move through, guys, but we're seeing some very good tailor, good salmon, and there's still a few mulloway, and of course our next moon phase running through in around about a week's time as we coincide with the June long weekend. So there's still plenty of time to get out there. The lake, look, it's been a bit up and down. Last week was a bit patchy, but over the last few days, just prior to this little bit of a blow we've just had, a lot of fish moved through. There's been a lot of mulloway, and I was talking to Pete Hopkins today. There's a real variety of mulloway sizes at the present moment. Some fish only around about 40, 45, 50 centimetres. So we're seeing a lot of smaller mulloway up to that metre mark. That's a very, very good sign of our fishery here, guys, in Lake Macquarie, when we're seeing that real blend of fish. So we know there's recruitment, those smaller fish are moving up. So it's great to see the lake in such good condition. A lot of tailor mixed in with them, and the tailor schools are certainly varying. Some fish under 30 centimetres, a lot of chopper tailor in some patches, and better fish over the 50. But you've got to just move around. Definitely trolling is certainly the pick. Once you locate the bait schools, you'll actually see them getting carved up, get in there with those soft plastics and them vibes, and you'll really do well. Or indeed, fish of an evening. There's still a few squid around. You've got to work for them, but they're there. But then fish for these mulloway. Some really good kings in the lake. I was talking to Billy Gray the other day. Some great fish. They lost a big fish at the boat, probably around about 1.2 metres in length. There's some very big fish there. So again, live baiting or down rigging, or even getting around some of these cardinal markers in the lake and throwing some of these stick baits or big white plastics in on those for your kings. Well worthwhile. My good mate Bobby Mowbray, a couple of days ago, the Brim Reaper, he's been in action, and there's some great brim at the moment. I know Johnny Frith had an opportunity to also duck out this week and got his bag limit pretty much in no time. But there's some very good fish in and around 35 to 40s. So a lot of brim still in the system. Starting to see the flathead guys come back in really good numbers. A lot of fish 45s to 50s, but there are those 60 pluses and of course quite a few fish over 70. But they're coming through in big numbers. So there's a lot of patches, certainly the southern end of the lake, but I know there's been a bit of a hot spot, certainly Swansea, Fishing Point, and definitely up towards Toronto, fishing very, very well. And it's just a matter of just getting out there, guys, and having a bit of a variation. The Ludrick, I get a few guys asking me, there's not a lot of Ludrick in the estuary itself because there's such big concentrations, obviously off the rocks. I know a few of the boys went to Port Stephens today. They were fishing inside the bay to try to get a few Ludrick there, but they're going to start to build, and I really do think that we'll see over the next few months that Ludrick come back in. A lot more questions about salmon. There are some salmon in the lake on these bait schools. Some fish, 45s, 50s or bigger, but they're mixed in with the tailor, and that will be part of the bycatch of what's going on out there. But the odd one getting caught in the channel, but it is mainly on bait. Last year, as you remember, that salmon really didn't turn up till the second week in July, so there's still plenty of time to come once these salmon basically flow through. It's going to start to get a little bit better, even though if you're a little bit to the north, and certainly the guys at Port Stephens at the moment probably copping a whacking, but that was a fearsome storm. But the beauty of it is the better forecast to come. Got some good tides this weekend, guys, around about 8:15 tomorrow, low tide, and around 2:30 tomorrow afternoon. So that's a great tide as that wind starts to come off, and there's still some really good squid getting caught offshore, some really good green eyes. And with that in mind, we've taken the opportunity to basically bring together just a little bit of a squid pack for our offshore guys and get out there and chase some of these green-eyed squid. So we've put together 7 of these Sophia squid jigs, the clicks, and they've basically got the little rattles on the inside of them, all 3s to 3.5s. I've got this eggy wallet here as well from Shimano. Now, guys, we put together, we've only got a few of them, we put together a few little packs valued over $200, $99 for our listeners of our fishing report for this weekend. Come on down, guys. We've always got plenty of action happening, but just persevere. Hope everyone's done well and hasn't got injured or damaged. There's a lot of damage around at the moment, but let's get out there. The weather's looking good. Might be keen for a midweeker. See you next Friday.